Good morning everyone and welcome to Homestead for a Living. I did a video last week where we talked about trellising plants up other plants. Specifically, I was using examples of things like canna lily and ragweed as our trellises for our beans, such as you see going on right here. But I want to talk more today about really utilizing trees specifically and integrating your perennial production with your annual production. For a lot of people in a lot of contexts, it makes a lot of sense. Our food forest and orchard has never really been separated from our annual production. In particular because we're in a race to produce as much food, healthy food for our family as possible. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of years to really go from zero food production to fully, completely providing all of your own food. And so that means that the one thing that's at a premium around here, it's not so much space, it's compost, it's soil, it's good amended soil because we have hard rocky clay. We're on top of a hill. It used to be an old pasture. It's compacted, not great soil to work with. There's good stuff in there. Its potential just needs to be unlocked by creating a lot of soil life and softening everything up. So that means we're amending a lot, and our animal culture, our chickens and goats, they're producing manure, and as fast as we can, we turn that into compost and get it on the ground. But it's kind of slow. You know, we're bound by the limits of reality. You can only flip so many compost piles in a day. And so point being, as we're creating food forests and orchards, such as our line of apple trees coming down the driveway here, we're amending the soil around them as we go. And so if we're going to spend all of that effort, energy, time, money, improving that spot of soil, then we might as well grow annuals amongst it. And so that's why we have these mixed beds where there's lots of fruit trees, but there's lots of herbs and squash and tomatoes and peppers, various veggies being grown alongside them. Here we've got our annuals, our peppers, strawberries, elderberry, apple, all intermingled. But what I wanted to show is a fun example of accidental trellising. We've been growing a lot of lemon cucumbers, which is a great prolific crop. Here in the south it does amazingly, and I remember them doing well in Oregon as well. They're a round cucumber, they're tangy, they're very fun, they seem to be pretty pest resistant. And here we see them just climbing up this evergreen tree. And there's a lot of them on here. So this tree is really doing a great job as a trellis for us. So this line of trees, I'll step back from it to kind of help you understand the full scope of what we're looking at. This line of trees, both the ones we planted like the apple trees and the wilder trees behind it, they're all facing to the south. That's north, but in front of those trees, that's south. So they get a ton of sun exposure every day as that sun goes across. So that means that leaving those trees in the back and then planting vegetables in the front is really good for trellising things, because they can trellis up and go up those trees and climb them, but they're still getting all of the light that they need. And we've done this with all sorts of different kinds of trees around the property, both accidentally and unintentionally. In the case of those lemon cucumbers, we were just throwing the seeds out to see what would happen, and they found their way up the tree. But other times we do plant our beans and our squashes, melons, cucumbers, any kind of vining plant alongside our trees. Here you'll see we have a gourd plant, and it's climbing up an evergreen tree, or a black cherry tree. This one hasn't yet produced a fruit on it. I'm hoping it will. That will be a really fun one if it does. But over here we have a maple, which we've been climbing both beans and squash up. You can see beans hanging onto it, and it's really fun. Those beans just found their way around the trunk and find their way up the branches. Here's the gourd starting to show itself. So of course this is a trellis I didn't have to build, I didn't have to buy, I didn't have to stick in the ground. It's just a tree, and by allowing it to exist alongside my garden, also I'm improving my soil and building great root structure throughout the soil, and it's dropping leaves and mulch and just making a really good garden spot. I'll show you one more example here. We have an invader crossing over from our trellis right up into this evergreen tree. So I encourage you to think of that and look for spots around your property where that might work, especially if you're doing any clearing. You can selectively allow trees to continue to exist so that you can climb things up them, because the more that we leave trees in the ground, the better our system is going to be as much as possible. Of course, we have to open up some light. We're going to have some flat areas for growing, but as you can see, it can be very minimal and very productive. I only had to clear maybe a 5-foot strip between the driveway and those trees in order to have a nice amount of bed area, and the rest I was able to leave in forest, which also means that deer traffic through there, which is an extra protein source, and it gives me a privacy barrier between myself and my neighbor, as well as just this fun aesthetic of having the house tucked in the woods like that. So love on trees. They're good for your soil, they're good for your farm, they're good for your food production, and they're tools just like any animal or plant. They can be integrated into your system and used creatively to boost your food production and make everything a little bit more streamlined and easier. So I hope that gives you some ideas. Would love to hear your ideas. In the last video when we talked about climbing up things like corn and canna lily and ragweed, I had mentioned Jerusalem artichokes, and somebody said they exude something that actually causes a problem for a lot of their annual plants. So that was good to know. That's why I love this community of YouTube, is you can learn things. I didn't have to grow out a row of Jerusalem artichoke and try it and fail. I was able to learn from somebody else's experience. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about trellising things up trees or using trees alongside annuals, and how those relationships work on your property. In the meantime, y'all stay safe, be well, and happy homesteading. Oh, and because I got to plug this in every video, the festival, Back to Land Festival, is coming up in 2 weeks. That's the get-together where we bring homesteaders from around Middle Tennessee and the whole U.S. really, who get together to learn from each other, to network. This one is very exciting. We're going to have everything from natural beekeeping, small engine repair, composting. We're going to have a panel of permaculture designers, which I'm very excited about, homeschooling resources, a lot of networking resources, and really just building this community that we need to build around self-sufficiency and independence. So hope to see you there. If you're not sure how to start homesteading, we got a book now, Scrapsteading, and that's up at scrapsteading.com. We wrote it with Billy Bond from over at Perma Pastures Farm, and it's really kind of a how-to guide of getting rolling regardless of your budget. So hopefully that will be a useful resource as well. Scrapsteading.com is that one. Back to the Land Festival is the festival link where tickets and more information is available about camping and all of that. So hope to see you there. And in the meantime, y'all stay safe, be well, and happy homesteading.